So in one of my earlier videos, I did mention I was going to tell you a secret about on the personal life breakdown for pushes. I had said I was going to come in here and show you something that I referred to as a secret, but it's not really. I guess it could be kind of a secret, but it's more like a key piece or a core component, or kind of like a bonus. So you have your research and your development here. Now to elaborate on this, what you can do is you can actually come in here and you could add startup. So if in your personal life you wanted to make an initiative to launch a startup, that's a really powerful piece if you think about it, because now you can organize in your personal life. You can be committing, if you're committing 2 hours per day. So 1 hour is towards your research and development because you're always improving your skills, right? So that's 1 hour every day that you're putting into yourself. And then you're also taking some time to do a startup. And although you could potentially, before you're ready to launch your startup, that could be part of your research in your research and development. You could be researching ideas and businesses and stuff like that. It could be part of your learning curriculum. So you could have in here, just like you want to learn Python or Auto, it could be like learn business, and you could have like different startup books that you could use. But then once you've done your research, you could launch as a pushing the launch of a startup. And so that's a really powerful piece that you can take advantage of. And then obviously you can come in here and you can filter on your push for your startup. And then you can just put drivers into your startup. So you have to, you have to create your LLC or your corporation, and then you need to find a location, or if it's not a physical address, then you would need to find a domain name, or come up business name ideas, and obviously these are the less important pieces, these are the creation of the company, but the fundamental is probably building out your MVP, your minimum viable product. So this allows you a place that you can kind of come in here and put things in progress. And if you're committing that, if you're treating that as a push, then you're committing 2 hours per day. So 1 hour goes towards research and development, 1 hour towards your startup every day and on your personal life. So you come home from work or on the weekends, and if you can't put in an hour every day towards your startup, even if it was you're deciding to put 2 hours per week, you pick Tuesday, Thursday to work on it, or you pick Saturday and Sunday, or even if you're just putting 1 hour on the weekend, that'll make a huge impact. You'll start slow, but you'll also see too that once you get momentum working in any push, that you won't really want to stop. So next thing you know is you basically find yourself naturally putting in lots of time onto the things that you really want to push, that you have a deep desire to see grow. And then the thing that I just wanted to say to wrap this all together is that your startup is really something that if it becomes successful and you continue it, it may become more than just a push in your personal life, right? You can actually take this out of here and you can create its own section here. So where we have our backup we created our backup here, we could duplicate this and rename this to be our startup. Or our business. And eventually, what you can do is that you can hopefully eventually quit your day job, your work, and focus full time on my company, right? So it's kind of weird that you would so you might be wondering, well, why would you take something out of your personal life that's a personal push? How do you know when to put it from here out over to here? And so that's what I wanted to talk about. This is just understanding this structure, because everything is kind of like a push or an action item in some regard. And so what I would like to just propose as a thought is to think of these high-level ones like work, personal life. If you have your own personal company, think of those as big pushes. Those are kind of like your big pushes. Anything that's a big push is basically anything that you're planning to put 2 to 4 hours of work into every week or every day, I should say. So if you're planning to put 2 to 4 hours every day into something, that's basically a big push. And then obviously, naturally, your personal life is a big push, right? Because every day you're spending more than just like an hour on yourself. Like your whole day revolves around making yourself a better person and so forth. It just might not be that you're currently doing deep focused work on that. So this is just organizing your life and your work around big pushes that you want to put 2 to 4 hours of deep focused work into. And so that could initially start where your personal life push is a startup where you only put in 1 hour out of all the time that you're allocating into your big push, which is your personal life. Only an hour of your big push for your personal life is going in your startup. But as your startup starts to, you start finding that you're putting on a daily basis 3 to 4 hours or something like that. You start realizing that that's a big push. So that becomes your company. And then in your company, you have pushes like launch product X, can be a big launch, find new hires. These can be big pushes, or like meeting with the team on feature Y. So these can all become big pushes, and basically everything in your work that you're doing at your day job, like support tickets and coding, could then become part of your own personal company. So how do you know how to structure this? So again, big pushes are things that you're planning to put 2 to 4 hours of work per day into, and they'll make up these high level ones. And then inside of in your personal life, anything that you're making a push that's a kind of a sub push of your big push, you like research and development, launching a startup, and then you could add like home improvement, and then you could add like time with family. And again, how you allocate that 2 to 4 hours per day is up to you. You could put an hour here one day, an hour here, and then the next day you could put an hour here, and you can put an hour up here. And you can try to have this organized so, your family could be the number one priority, your learning could be next, and then your startup, or maybe these priorities will change. And you can try to keep the balance of deep focus time so that it should ideally be like 4, 3, 2, 1. So as the week goes on, you should make sure that your points are higher on what you've prioritized as being the most important thing for your personal push, for any of your big pushes. So yeah, so work would be a big push, personal life would be a big push, and then inside your personal life, your startup would be kind of a push, your time with your family, your research and development. And then if you were like in school, for example, research and development could basically become a big push, potentially. If your learning was full time and you were in college, you're spending 5 hours or more every single day studying, it's very possible that research and development could come out and be a big push for some period of time. And so that's the nice thing about what we did in our work section, is we added these active and inactive statuses. You could even come in here and you could add like another section if you wanted to, where you have active, inactive. You could just mark it as inactive, or you could be like now big push, and you could move it out into there. So now big push, and then you could set this to be like blue or something. And so you could say like, okay, now the side project for the company is now a big push, because I don't know, that doesn't make any sense in that case, because this example doesn't make 100% sense. I was just kind of trying to show you though, because we didn't set up the statuses in the personal life, but you could take something in your personal life and create a status for it and move it over to a big push. Or you could just come in here and you could go ahead, and as you slowly move all of the things out of your action items into another section, you could eventually just go ahead and delete it. But I think that you'll find that this structure will work really good. The only one in your personal life that I see you'll really need to move out would be like your startup might start as a side hustle, and then over time, maybe you want to take your startup and make it full time and create it as a big push. And then that will allocate your time. So in a way, it's kind of like a to-do list of to-do lists of to-do lists. But on a bigger picture thing, it's kind of more about focusing and organizing your life around things that you want to push. And you have big pushes like your work and your personal life. And then within your work, you have all sorts of different responsibilities on your job that you need to push. In your personal life, you have all sorts of things going on in your personal life that you need to push. And then each one of those things that you're trying to push in your personal work life are made up of a bunch of action items that you need to do in order to move them along, right? And so that's kind of the hierarchy here. So the big secret and the big key takeaway is just understanding that any one of these could eventually become a big push, or just be a push within a big push. And then it's very possible as well that sometimes you might create an action item which you find is actually something that should just be a push of its own because it has a lot more that's involved into it. So these things are dynamic and they move around, but you can find how you want to prioritize them and move them up and down the hierarchy as you go along. It tends to be very natural, and I think that you'll really enjoy this process of kind of exploring and finding out what's the most important things to you, and they'll naturally bubble up to the top. And obviously the most important things will be big pushes, and then it will kind of work down naturally from there. So that's it for this section. If you have any questions, again, you can always reach out to info@productiveprogrammer.com. Take care, and I'll see you in the next lesson.